Moving on to the presentation, I'm joined today with Rick Kickert, Global Senior Director of Business IQ at AppDynamics, where he works with enterprises on how to connect application performance and business outcomes to transition IT from servicing the business to driving the business. Prior to AppDynamics, he spent over 10 years as the Director of IT Planning for Blue Cross. We also have Amod Gupta, who is the Director of Product Management at AppDynamics, where he leads the product management team for Business IQ. His responsibilities include product development, team growth, and go-to-market strategies. Amod joined AppDynamics almost 5 years ago and has owned different products at the company. Prior to joining AppDynamics, he was a product manager at Microsoft, working on products such as Visual Studio and Microsoft Outlook. And with that, I'll hand it over to Rick.
Thanks, Alyssa, and thanks to everyone who's taking the time out of your busy day to join our financial services webinar. So my hope is that everyone leaves with some nuggets of information that can either help drive some additional creativity, vision, or really be able to help you with your day-to-day activities at your different banks or financial institutions. And again, if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out afterwards for follow-up discussions, meetings. We're always more than happy to help. So I just want to be able to start off with here is talking a little bit about what are the market challenges today and where do we see the market going, right? So, and one of the biggest challenges, whether it's good or bad, is that every business is becoming a software business and, unfortunately, competing with other software businesses. Whether your bank or a financial institution, obviously software is not your business, but because most of your customer interaction, if not all the customer interaction, is starting to go through software today. And now you're being held to that same expectation. An expectation that the bar is set by companies like Amazon or Google, who can execute a search transaction in less than 250 milliseconds. And that's the bar that's being set out there today. And on top of it, you've got some of these tech giants that are now venturing into the financial industry. So you're already seeing it today, really in the payment space and how that's been putting a dent into this sector. And it's also helping them build up their trust brand, the trust brand that they've already really established with millennials, because they're used to using tools like PayPal and Amazon or Google Pay. And it's starting to creep up on that rating that banks have always held far significantly higher than anyone else in the marketplace. So what this does is it also creates a strong amount of urgency to not only keep pace with your customer's expectation, but also the new competition that's coming into the market. So you look at where this industry has really come from, and I remember not long ago walking into brick and mortar, whether it be to open an account, make a deposit, a transfer, or picking up a phone to make an investment, or be able to execute a trade or getting investment advice. Hey, now, doing a lot of transactions through ATMs and being able to drive around and looking for the parking lot or using my app to find the most convenient ATM, be able to make those deposits or withdraw money out. And now it's gone really one step further, where a company like RBS Bank, they say that their most busiest bank branch in the UK is that mobile app on the 7:15 a.m. train. And I am sure this is the same for just about anyone in the financial services space, where most of the interaction is being done on that online app. As a matter of fact, in 2012, there was an estimated 27% where people interacted 100% via digital. And you fast forward just 5 years, and now it's at 46%. My guess is that in the next just 1 to 2 years, that number again will significantly go up, again, because of all the dependency on digital, online, and really the convenience of that. It becoming an expectation of how consumers are going to interact with your business, trying to figure out how to become a differentiator from the competition. Right now, Forrester reports that 1 in 3 people agree that all banks are basically the same. Since most products are commoditized, the challenge is how not to be considered just a money pipe. And one of the ways to do that is moving every single service to digital and being able to connect all those different services, whether you're saving money, building accounts, moving it, borrowing it, paying bills, getting advice on investments or making investments. You want to be able to understand the entire user experience from start to finish and be able to collect data that's going to help you improve on that experience. A matter of fact, the top 3 strategic priorities for 2018, at least suggested by financial services CEOs, are being able to enhance the digital experience, enhance the data capabilities, and while also being able to reduce those operational costs. But lots of companies, they've made investments in this space like analytics or improving digital. However, the challenge is that even though those applications and businesses have converged, the data has really not, and which makes it impossible to connect the business outcome. So what do I mean by that? So today, there's lots of business analytic tools, and those are really good at providing business insights, right? So how are things working in last quarter sales? Our new product lines, are they on target? What's our conversion rates? But a lot of that data it's typically in the rear, and sometimes it takes a small army just to be able to stitch that part of the data together. And then you've got your traditional APM tools where they're really looking at how's your infrastructure performing? How's the nodes? Are they healthy? Your APIs, right? How are my response times? Challenges that things are looked at through a couple different lenses, right? You're looking at your business insights and trying to understand what's happening with your business, while other teams are looking from an application point of view and wanting to know really what that application problem is. But what we need is have context. So the first question that gets asked when a problem occurs by the business is why? And we want to be able to provide the what and the why. And also, with that same data, being able to not only be able to identify the problem, but how do I optimize the problem? You take this simple financial example here, where if we knew and could focus on the performance of that credit check transaction, maybe we'd be able to process 20 additional loans per hour and having a larger impact in revenue, or it could be customer experience or employee productivity, whatever is running through the back end of the application. But by able to having that data to know what's happening within my application, how it's impacting my business, it gives you the opportunity to not only be able to react to problems, but also be able to optimize on the business that's running through that. And so being able to unify teams that might typically not sit together at the table, whether it be the business, whether it be IT, whether it be developers, architects, engineering, all those different teams be able to look at that same single lens of data, again, identify and also hopefully optimize, and allowing you to take action on that. So when we think of action in the traditional sense, that might be alerting off of your infrastructure devices, or even alerting off of some of your application transactions, things like that. But imagine being able to get alerts off of your business, or perhaps on Monday morning when we're supposed to have a certain amount of people applying for loans or executing trades, that business is down. It's significantly lower than the expected number, and getting alerts off of that too. Or it might not even be an application problem. But now I can understand not only the health of my application, not only the health of my infrastructure, but also the health of my business. And then obviously being able to have that context so I can drill down directly out of those dashboards, out of that data, out of those business transactions, be able to understand what's taking place. And this is all in real time and all in the same single solution. But how does it work? It's a real quick overview. Right? So we go out there, extremely lightweight agents, be able to understand how the application is connected, what's going through those applications, and where everything's really instrumented. So being able to connect all that data and be able to map it entirely out and understand where those transactions and where that customer is flowing through the entire application environment. And then being able to provide baselines on that data. So every single metric that comes through, being able to understand what's good and bad and understand what those anomalies are. So when issues do occur, you're able to drill down directly into that problem, right? No more sifting through log files, right? And being able to do this in production or non-production and understand all the way down to the method, root line, cause of code, where your problem could occur. And then, obviously, since these are extremely lightweight agents, and as your business grows, and we want it to, we want to be able to support that and not be a bottleneck of that. So whether you're going out to the cloud, on-prem, hybrid, it doesn't matter. Wherever that transaction's going and that business journey, we can follow that. And again, being able to map that out, being able to collect that data and have it available. Because by collecting that data and having all of that, now we can understand when somebody like Mike Smith goes out there to apply for a loan, it depends on what type of loan you want. Maybe it's residential or commercial, right? And being able to do a credit check and then ultimately be able to submit that loan request. You have all of the Mike Smiths, all of those different types of loans, all that data, and pulling it together and having those business transactions to understand what's happening with the business and what that entire journey experience is. So being able to understand when people might be dropping out of that conversion funnel when they're applying for the loan or trying to execute that trade or being able to do investments. And by having all that data available, it's helped lots of customers and lots of companies out there today already. Take an example like NASDAQ, right? Where they said real-time intelligence and analytics are at the center of their innovation platform. NASDAQ, which is one of the fastest moving financial customers out there, right? Executing billions of trades in the marketplace, and still wanting to have more data available to see how they can optimize and drive that customer experience and have additional intelligence in their market. So we got lots of different use case examples, though, where we've worked with hundreds of different customers to figure out how this business transaction data can be able to improve the customer experience for them and be able to optimize what's happening with the business. So let's take user journey, for example, and this is similar to what I just walked through. We're being able to understand where customers are coming through in the conversion funnel while directly correlating that with the application performance and the transaction data. So in real time, being able to see how the application performance might be impacting that customer experience. Or I gave the example of being able to alert on the business. And so this is a great example of being able to see different pockets within inside of your business, how those business metrics are performing, what's happening with the business, maybe being able to hold third parties accountable, right? So maybe it's when a loan process might go off for underwriting or credit approval, being able to look at those third parties also and how those are impacting your business. Segment health. This is one of my favorite ones because this is as simple as looking through basically the haystack of metadata and being able to try and find that needle, right? So being able to quickly segment on those different types of transactions that are driving the business. Very simply, and you'll see this in the demo in just a couple minutes, where it's easy now to be able to segment and filter by different types of business transactions and associate that with performance or duration or load capacity, whatever metric basically we're collecting, being able to do that association and being able to look for quick areas where you can optimize those transactions or those different business segments. Release validation. So here's a great example of where you might have developed or enhanced some different business feature, written some code that's going to be able to help with a feature or function for that financial service, but you really want to be able to know, did I truly have a positive business impact? And quickly being able to compare version 1 versus version 2. And these dashboards really could be anything. They could be any of these use cases that I'm showing here, whether it's the conversion funnel, the business health, segmentation, very specific application data, but just knowing that immediately upon deployment and the production of that code, knowing what the business impact was to that, or really what any impact was. And then experience level management. So all of us really in any industry have some type of SLAs or performance expectations that we're trying to meet. And what this allows you to be able to do is monitor their service levels, again, in real time, pulling that data into dashboards that allow you to be able to see how am I performing to the business or a third party or another line of business. And a lot of us, and I had this previously when I worked at an insurance company for 10 years, where a small team of people to go and basically negotiate with the business on what my performance was and what my service levels were and how many people did it impact or how did it impact, time durations, things like that. You can pull all of that now into real time directly into AppDynamics. And then lastly is business journeys, really one of our most popular features that's taking off today. And that's really being able to understand the entire business process from start to finish. Let me just show you an example here for a minute. So initially, when I submitted that loan request in that previous example, we know that that's probably the easy part of the loan. And on the back end, that entire loan request is going to go to probably document verification, over to underwriting. It's going to go through some other different teams and business processes to get loan approvals, essentially authored a business journey that's going to go across multiple distributed events. And ideally, we want to be able to follow that entire transaction, entire business journey from start to finish. Not only understand where the customer experience has been through just submitting it, but the entire business journey from start to finish. So being able to stitch together those individual business transactions, be able to identify, is there bottlenecks? Is there spots where the customer is being experienced all the way to final loan approval? And then be able to focus our time and our efforts into be able to resolving that specific part of the business journey. Again, improving the entire customer experience and doing it with managing data that's available and being collected in real time, all in the same solution. And this is one of the things that's going to help be able to provide the competitive advantage in this marketplace when it's moving so fast. So one of the other key differentiators to know is that basically within every single one of these dashboards, still being able to drill in directly into where that problem is, isolating it, and triaging it immediately. So what I mean by that is having the ability to go whether from the root cause of the code, from the application overview to the dashboards, or from the dashboards down to the root line cause of code, but knowing directly where you see that problem on those dashboards, being able to drill into that and triage it. And that is probably one of the most unique things that AppDynamics and Business IQ offer today than anybody else in the marketplace. Being able to identify that there's a problem, what is happening with the business, and why. And now I'm going to pass this off over to Amod to really give a much more deep demo specifically around the financial services sector, and you can see a little bit about what our product has to offer.
Thank you, Rick. And thank you everyone for joining us on the webinar today. I'm excited to talk to you about our Business IQ product and demo some features that we found very useful for our financial industry customers. In keeping with the theme of this webinar, I've chosen a demo application, AD Financial, that represents some of the financial services applications that we've seen in our customers' environments. If you're familiar with AppDynamics, you know what you're seeing on your screen right now is an application flow map. This application flow map depicts different distributed components of your applications and the interactions between them. AppDynamics agents automatically discover and paint this flow map. You can see different things like databases, Java tiers, Node.js tiers, other applications that this application is interacting with. Now, AppDynamics not only paints a picture of the topology, it also breaks down your application into what we call our business transactions. Think of these business transactions as the interactions that your users have with this application. You can see, for example, that the users are logging in, they are submitting loan applications, the loan applications are going through credit check, insurance underwriting, document verification, and financial approval. There are some also stock-related business transactions that are happening. Now, our APM tool is fantastic for doing performance monitoring and troubleshooting when an incident occurs. But if you want to extract business information from this application and monitor some of the business KPIs, we recommend that you start using a Business IQ product. Turning on Business IQ is super simple. You go into Analytics, click on Configuration, choose the application that you want. For example, in this case, I'm interested in AD Financial. Check this box to enable data collection. By default, we start monitoring all the business transactions that were discovered in APM, but you can pick and choose and remove the ones that you don't want. For example, I've removed some balance services and code services and wire services related transactions that are not useful for the purposes of this demo. We automatically collect all the performance related information, but if you want, you can also set up data collectors and collect extra information. You can set up a data collector by telling us a class name and a method name, and then telling us what you want to collect from that method. For example, you can collect parameters that are being passed to that method, you can collect the return value from that method, so on and so forth. In this example, I'm collecting the loan amount from this method, which is being passed as the first parameter. Now, once you've set up these data collectors, we'll automatically start seeing this information flow through. You can go into the Searches tab, create a new search, and start looking at all the transactions that are coming in. Now, let's say you wanted to filter these transactions to only the ones that are coming from the AD Financial application. You could do that easily by looking for AD Financial application and hitting search. What you're seeing now are all the business transactions from that one application. ADQL is a simple AppDynamics query language that's SQL-like in nature and has things like IntelliSense and type ahead. Let's try something else. Say you wanted to see the average loan amount from the data collector that we just saw. You could select average, start typing loan amount, hit search. Let's say I wanted to choose the numeric widget. This is the average loan amount that your customers have applied for in the AD Financial application in the last 1 hour. You can come to the screen to execute many different types of queries. But if you wanted to execute this query again and again, you can create a metric from it. By creating a metric, we will execute this query in the background once every minute, and then the result from that will be stored in our metric data store. That's the same data store that our APM product uses to store performance metrics like CPU and average response time. Just like those performance metrics, these business metrics also get automatically baselined. Let's see how you can go about creating a metric. Let's give it a name. Hit save, and that's it. This metric has now been created successfully. You can hit the metrics tab and look at all the business metrics in your system. This is the one that we just created. Just like performance metrics, you can also create health rules and business metrics. When those health rules are violated, we can send alerts to your phones, your email, or even on Slack. Now, you saw some basic features in Business IQ. One of the new features that our financial customers are using heavily is business journeys. Remember, in the AD Financial application, you saw a bunch of business transactions that were loan related. Customers were coming into the application and submitting their loan applications. Those loan applications were going through document verification, they were going through credit check, insurance underwriting, and finally getting approved. Now, even though all of those steps are distributed in themselves and each business transaction represents those different steps in the processing of a loan, sometimes what you want is to visualize the end-to-end journey, right from the moment an application is submitted all the way to when the loan gets approved. That's where business journeys comes in. Using business journeys, you can stitch together events from multiple different types. You can stitch together different business transactions. You can stitch together log events with those business transactions to map out a complete end-to-end journey. Let's take a look at the one that I have created from before. As a first step, I'm looking at the transaction from AD Financial application, where the name of the transaction is application submission, and the tier that it starts on is loan services. From that transaction, I'm extracting information like loan ID, account ID, the type of loan that was applied for, location, city, email, etc. Pay special attention to this primary key field. The value of this field is what we use to join together multiple different milestones. The verified documentation milestone is not too dissimilar. It's also another event of transaction type from the same application, except the business transaction is now changed. It's a document verification business transaction. We are using the same primary key to stitch this verified documentation to the application submission milestone. Credit check is the same way, but underwriting is very interesting. Underwriting is actually an event that's coming from the logs. Now, this is useful if you have some components of your topology that are not being monitored by AppDynamics. In those cases, you can bring different types of events like logs or custom events and join them with the transaction events from other applications. Similarly, we have a loan approved transaction, and we are stitching that to the underwriting log event using the loan ID key. You also, once you create business journeys, you also get some out-of-the-box thresholds that automatically mark each business journey as slow, very slow, installed. I'm not going to save that again. Once you've created and enabled business journeys, they'll appear as a new event type in the Business IQ search. Let's go back and create a new search. What we'd seen so far was ADQL on transactions. Business IQ ingests many other event types, such as logs, event types from your browser applications, your mobile applications, crash reports from your mobile applications, sessions that can come from your JavaScript applications or mobile applications, synthetic products, IoT data, and business journeys. Notice that loan approval was the business journey that we had just created. What you're looking at on the screen are loan journeys that have come in the last 1 hour. Let's take a look at a dashboard that I have from before. On this dashboard, you can see all the loan applications that came in the last 1 hour. You can see them being segmented by loan type. Customers are applying for auto loans, small business loans, home equity loans, etc. On this chart here, you can see the different steps that they're going through. In the last 1 hour, 599 loan applications finished the application complete step. Of those 599, 271 reached the document verified step, 202 reached the credit check step, and so on. On the right hand side, you can see the applications that are either stuck or have been rejected at this step. Creating these charts is super easy. You can pick and choose the different chart types that you want, drag and drop fields. For example, if I were to show you this again, I can just simply drag and drop the loan type field on the x-axis and get the chart that I had. By switching over to the data tab, you can look at the individual loan applications and data about them. If you wanted to filter them by only those ones that have finished, you could use the total time to filter that. All the loan applications that have finished their journey have been automatically categorized by their user experience. Now, let's say you were interested in only those loan applications that were either slow or very slow. You could do that by simply adding a user experience filter. In this case, there were no applications in the last 1 hour that were slow and very slow. Let's go back some more time and see if we can find some. Here we go. All right. We've got a bunch of slow and very slow loan applications. Let's pull one up and see what's going on. Here's a flow map view of all the different milestones that this particular application went through. And it looks like the verified documentation step is the bottleneck because that's taking about 1 hour and 6 minutes of the total time, whereas all the other steps are in the order of minutes. You can also see the data that we've collected from different milestones. Remember, we saw email, first name, last name being extracted from the application submission milestone. You can see all that data here. You can also see performance and user experience related data for each of the milestones in this card. This is one example of how you can use business journeys to troubleshoot a process that not only spans multiple applications, but may have manual steps in between, may last for hours, days, or even weeks. Before we go any further, let's summarize what we've seen today so far. We saw how Business IQ could be configured. We took a look at how additional data can be collected as part of the transactions that are coming in from API. We briefly saw what features AppDynamics query language offers. We saw some functions like average. We saw features like type ahead. We looked at how we could create metrics and get these ADQL queries to be executed once every minute. We also saw a relatively new feature in business journeys. We took a look at how we can author business journeys and search through them. We saw how we can create charts with analytics data. It's super easy to do that with drag and drop interface that the Business IQ offers. And finally, we also saw how we can use the business journey feature to troubleshoot performance issues and identify performance bottlenecks in a long business journey. So finally, let's look at how all this comes together in a dashboard. In AppDynamics, you can go to Dashboards and Reports and create new custom dashboards with the type of data that you want. For the purposes of this demo, I have a dashboard that I created before using the business journeys that you were seeing just now. Now, this is from the same AD Financial application. Let me switch back to the last 1 hour, the time range that we've been using in the demo so far. You're seeing a few things on this dashboard right now. You're seeing the number of active users, loan applications, the percentage of delayed loans, average approval time per loan, KPIs that are important for a business. You're seeing business metrics that we saw created using ADQL. All these business metrics are baselined, and their color indicates whether the current values are along normal lines or deviating from normal. For example, it looks like that the percentage of delayed loans is significantly higher than we see normally. This is one of the advantages of business metrics. If delayed loans or percentage of delayed loans is one of those things that your business puts a high premium on, and by the way, these dashboards update in real time. So if it's one of those things that your business puts a high premium on, you can create a business metric from it. It'll automatically get baseline. You can create a simple health rule that will alert you when this value deviates from normal. Similarly, we are looking at average approval time, and this seems to be behaving normally also. This is the same funnel that we saw before. This is the funnel for all the loan applications going through different steps, and you can see where the drop-offs are. The drop-offs combined with the average total time, as well as the inefficiencies that you can identify by looking at which milestone is taking the longest time, gives you a very comprehensive framework to troubleshoot processes that span multiple transactions, multiple applications, and multiple systems of records. Loan journeys is one example we used for this demo, but there are many others that we've seen in the financial services industry. Some common ones that we come up against a lot are credit card applications, payment authorizations, trade processing, etc. That's pretty much it for the demo today. I hope you found that useful. I certainly enjoyed presenting this to you. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Amod, for that awesome demo, and Rick for your insights earlier. So now we are at our Q&A portion of the event. We do have a few that are in the queue already, so we'll get started on those, but definitely feel free to keep adding them as you think of them. And if we don't get to your question live, we'll definitely reach out afterwards offline to make sure that you get the appropriate answers that you need. So with that, let's get started. A few of these are pretty good for you, Amod. How long does it take to get started with Business IQ?
It's very easy to get started. If you are already using APM or if you're already using browser RUM or mobile RUM, a single checkbox in the UI will enable you to start using Business IQ. For APM, to get APM transactions into the Business IQ bucket, in the machine agent that automatically collects information like CPU and garbage collection, there's a configuration setting that we need to change in order for that machine agent to start sending data to Business IQ. But for EUM events like browser RUM, mobile RUM, we don't need to do anything. It's automatically there.
Great. The next question we have is, does Business IQ require new or additional agents?
No, it does not. In the case of APM data, it does require a switch in a flag in the machine agent settings, but it doesn't require a net new agent. Or as you've seen, Business IQ is a collection of data that's coming from APM applications, that's coming from your mobile applications, that's coming from your browser applications. For other data sources like browser applications, your JavaScript, your iOS or Android applications, it doesn't require any agent. As long as you have the licenses, you have access to Business IQ and all the data.
Great, thanks. The next one we've got here. So if Business IQ records every event, does it introduce additional overhead?
You know, that's a good question. That's a question I've had before also a couple of times. There's a misconception that collecting events causes additional overhead. If you think about our RUM solution or our mobile RUM solution, we are already collecting all that data. If you think about our APM agents, we are showing you the average response time, the calls per minute, and the errors per minute. We are already collecting all the calls that are coming into your applications. We are aggregating them over time, we are aggregating them over space, and then throwing away the raw data. With Business IQ, instead of throwing away the raw data, we automatically start collecting that in our event store. It doesn't require any net new instrumentation. It doesn't require us to execute more lines of code. And in fact, the data collection mechanism that happens as part of the machine agent is also a completely separate process than your backend applications. You could be running it on a separate machine. So it doesn't introduce any additional overhead.
Great. Okay, there were a few questions that came in about, if a recording will be available, and so I just want to answer that, is that yes, there will be a recording. You will, as an attendee, you'll get a link emailed to you tomorrow, and that you'll be able to share with your colleagues as needed. Okay, and then moving on, I think this may be our last question from the audience with the time that we have. So Amod, how are business transactions defined?
Business transactions are defined automatically as part of APM. This is, like I mentioned, this is one of the data sets that comes into Business IQ. However, in order to get business transactions defined, a customer doesn't have to do anything. As soon as they install the APM agents, namely the Java agent on your Java applications, the .NET agent, Node.js agents, all these agents will automatically look at the traffic that's coming in and define business transactions based on the traffic, based on certain rules. For example, if your Java applications uses servlets, you look at the last two segments of the URL to name those business transactions. If you're using struts, we look at the action for the struts framework to name those business transactions. There are a bunch of automatic rules that are pre-configured into the application, but we also have a lot of flexibility around it. So for example, if you wanted to split your business transactions and not name it after, let's say the last two segments of the URL, you could do last three segments, last one segment. If you wanted to split it on some function or a parameter that's being passed to that function. For example, sometimes what we've seen is customers will have login transactions, and they want to split the login transaction by login transactions for my platinum users, login transactions for my silver users, login transactions for my gold users. If in the course of the login transaction, there's a class or a method which takes the customer type as a parameter, you can define that and use the value of that customer type to split the transaction into silver, gold, platinum. There are multiple ways of splitting business transactions, and all of them are available in the APM tool under the configuration tab.
Great. Thanks, Amod. And so that does conclude our Q&A portion of the event. I know that there's a few other questions that have come in, and I think those will be best to answer offline. So thanks a lot, Amod, and again, thanks to Rick.